Hello, everybody. My name again is Jeffrey Davis. I'm the host of Radio Entrepreneurs. And, I've mentioned before, we've talked to over 8,000 entrepreneurs and leaders. Some of them we go into our bag, our history bag, and we pull out people from our past, earlier on in the show, proof of our history. This one in particular, John McDougall, President, CEO, McDougall Interactive. John, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome. Good to see
we,
you.
we have a little history going on, and you have a lot of
Yeah.
history. Your father owned an ad agency going way back into the 1970s, and you have reinterpreted yourself, reinvented yourself into a modern day marketing firm. So I'm looking forward to you explaining that to our listeners.
Yeah. So my dad's agency, McDougall Associates Advertising, started in the 60s in Salem and out of a house, I think it was. And then they bought a building over on Front Street in Salem, and the city gave them like 40 grand to like rehab it. So it was almost like given to them. And then, they had a thriving creative shop, and then they moved over to Peabody and kept building bigger buildings, and eventually rented that to Salem Hospital. And they sold to IPG, or to Bozell, that then got sucked up, I think, by IPG, is it? One of the biggest agency groups in the world. But back in '94, I worked at Dad's agency as as a former musician, as you can see from the guitars everywhere. And so I worked in '94 as a media planner, and then in '95 they said, "Here's a laptop, go sell websites." Whatever a website is, in
Right.
'95. And so I would drive around with a laptop and a phone jack and dial up over AOL in people's offices. Like I would drive around up Route 1 in Saugus here in Massachusetts, and went into like Prince's Pizza, and some other places, just trying to get my feet wet, practicing on the small businesses, selling websites. And one guy was like, "You are like the modern snake oil salesman." Again, this is 1995. He's like, "Websites? What the heck are you, get out of here, kid. This internet thing is going nowhere." He literally told me the internet's going nowhere. Um, so
Another
anyway,
genius.
yeah, I wonder what he's doing today. I remember that meeting very clearly, just basically kicking me out of his office because the sound of the modem just kind of freaked him out. So in '96, I think it was spring of '96, we were doing a educational startup, like a kids TV show, like a .com. We were trying to be like the next .com thing, almost like a Barney, but with an alligator and a pelican, called Louisiana Lou. So my brother and I kind of shifted gears from agency stuff to do that with my father and my cousin who thought it up. And I was the music director and built the website. And my brother said, there's this SEO. I signed us up for an SEO class. This is before Google. The year before Google's first patent, which was '97 Google PageRank. So like '96, we're studying SEO. I think it was Robin Nobles, I think was her name. It was probably like one of the very first SEO classes ever. And it was online. And, she would just give us exercises of like keyword research and explaining that. And I remember I got the very first book about SEO. Mike Grahan, this guy interviewed the people at like Yahoo, AOL, Lycos, Alta Vista, the engineers that built the search engines. And you could only get this book online. There were no SEO books. And he said he was going to do a second version, like another edition of the book. And like thousands of people were like actively like waiting on his waiting list. Like, when is it coming out? Because it was so amazing. I mean, he went to California and different places and interviewed the people that built the original search algorithms. And that's how you kind of learned SEO early on, was just this guy said this, or,
On the streets.
Yeah. There was no books. I remember the first book that I remember coming out, or at least one of them, it's maybe not the first. It had like when you go to the eye doctor and there's like the different size letters, it had SEO with like different size letters. I remember that book and thinking, wow, there's an actual book. Gobbled that up. So I've been doing SEO since all that time. And I don't know, if you want to hear sort of like where sort of the trajectory of things has gone now to AI, or what do you?
Well, I do want to get into AI. So why don't we do that in it's three stages. We have the
Yeah.
history stage first, which is unusual for us. We usually get that in the middle. And what are you sort of focusing on now? And then let's talk about AI because that's the future.
Yeah.
It's This is like the movie The Christmas Carol. The ghost of
Yeah.
Christmas past, Christmas
Yeah.
present, and then Christmas future. We can do all three.
Yeah. So early SEO, like 1999-ish, after I built it up a little, practicing on my father's fine art site and some small businesses. And I left my dad's agency and just said, you know what, I'm going to just do this on my own. But I went from trying to sell clients like GE and Dunkin' Donuts to, the local plumber or whatever. So I took any small clients. And I remember getting a hearing aid guy. It was actually my eye doctor in Peabody. Um, can't think of his name, but he owned hearing aids online and he owned contactlenses.com or contactlensesonline.com. I think it was contactlenses.com, and he sold it for a lot of money. And then he said, "Oh man, you got to get my hearing aid site to rank." Over a weekend, I had studied web design at BU 98, 99. I got a certificate from BU in like web design, and like they didn't really teach SEO, but like some Photoshop and stuff like that. Anyways, I forget the year I did this, but it was definitely 90s. And over a weekend I built the website, hand coded the website with HTML just in like Notepad. I took what was like a typical 90s website, like 4 or 5 pages that looked like, rainbows and unicorns or black and star, like they look crazy back then, just like so no design, just like horrible looking. So I tried to spiff it up, but I redid his logo myself. My dad once got, I think, 900 grand for like a logo slash branding project, but I just like threw the logo in, because he just did everything together for nothing. Might have got like 8,500 or something for the whole project, but did the logo over the weekend. Didn't even get approval. I just like redid his logo in Photoshop, probably beveled and embossed, back then. Hand coded the site. And the big difference was he only had like a few pages, but I said, I'm going to write a page for each of the brands. So Phonak, Siemens, different, types of brands that had hearing aids. And I put a description and the different models where I was able to go on the internet and with his brochures, I think even, and like cobbled this together all over the weekend, cobbled it together, put it up. Within weeks, it seemed it was very fast. He started ranking for hearing aids like #1 in Yahoo, because again, this was either before Google or so early Google. We were like most excited about like Yahoo. So where things changed, what's funny is, just to jump to the future, we're still doing that. Like, hey, let's look at this website and what is it missing in terms of content, flesh out the content with useful information. I mean, now it's also with a blog and podcasts and videos, which we can get into. But back then, that was like enough to freak the search engines out. Like I had like struck gold because nobody had done that. They're all just like selling on their websites. I was interested in giving the most information because, I had read about that in these SEO, not even books, just online things. And it worked like crazy. And then he sold that company, I think, partly because of me, because they were like, oh my God, you're #1. It was Hearing Planet bought it. And then I worked for Hearing Planet because the guy was like, how the hell did you do that? Like, we're trying to rank #1 for hearing aids. You beat us. And you're this like piece of crap little, like, the eye doctor has a hearing aid site because he's part deaf. And like his site's outranking Hearing Planet. We're like the big dog, and I like crushed the big dog. So they bought my client and then hired me to work on both sites, to continue to keep that site up and to work on Hearing Planet. Now, over the years, it's still important to put keywords on the pages and have product pages and things like that. But, you know, or instead of jumping all the way to now, I'll say like shortly after that, you know, in the 2000s, people, you know, maybe before, but people started blogging more seriously. But at first, they were really blogging with like 300 to 500 word, like crappy little things.
I'm
And
just going to interrupt
yeah,
you for a second because we
yeah,
only have a minute left. Could we
okay,
just spend the last minute on AI and how you see
yeah,
things going?
yeah. And so, in a nutshell, content has gotten longer and more in depth and more strategic. And Neil Patel Digital, a $100 million a year SEO agency, has done a lot of tests showing that Google doesn't love like auto generated AI content, but you can use AI to say, write a table of contents for a book or ebook about hearing aids. And then you can follow that up in ChatGPT, or I like Google Gemini for AI, for, you know, one main AI tool. And then you say, write 6 podcast questions relating to that ebook. Then we interview our clients in a podcast, leave the webcam on. We get the whole ebook structure from the transcripts. We make a podcast out of each of the 10, 15-minute interviews. That goes up as an ebook. We turn it into prose, put a nice cover design. And then there's blog posts for each of the podcasts with a transcript under it. And then there's YouTube shorts and summaries for YouTube, all generated from just talking. So I call that talk marketing. And that's my latest book, Talk Marketing. So we use AI, but we don't just push a button and use AI like that.
Well, that's great. And, you know, it's again, you might have to come back on a little bit sooner than the last gap we had.
Yeah,
We can get
sounds
more
good.
into detail. But John, if someone's looking for your help with SEO,
Yeah.
websites, and dealing with AI in the future, how do they find you?
So McDougall is my agency site, and I have talkmarketing.com is my, like, I teach agencies how to have SEO as a service. And then now we're authorized to do the workforce training fund program. So people can get $20,000 from the state of Massachusetts and study with us for free.
Well, John, it really was quite nice to reconnect with you again.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Been a long time.
a little bit of history there.
Yep.
And I look forward to seeing you again. Don't be such a stranger. And
Yep.
remind everyone
Likewise.
this is Radio Entrepreneurs.